Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Welcome to the Transgender panel, the Q&A, all the info you want to know that we're afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to ask. Anyway, I'm your host, Jocelyn. This is Tommie. Feel free, Tommie.
Jump in. I was hoping for like a packed house here, and so
We're not packed.
I guess we need to just continue to start. Have everyone just bunch together, move forward, make friends.
Should we all get guitars and sing Kumbaya too?
Well, they won't let us have a campfire in here.
That's true.
I think this tarp's flammable, but I guess what just
Just say your story.
okay. I'll start off with. Am I speaking loud enough?
You're good.
Okay. Usually when I address crowds, I'm standing, but this is a small group, more intimate.
You're welcome to sing. My old lazy ass is gonna sing. So.
Well, I didn't want to have you move the camera too much, so.
I'm here for you. Do what you got. Do what you got to do.
Okay, we'll see what happens. My name's Tommie. Normally, I'm sitting on that side. This is my first time here doing this. I'm very excited to be here, and I thank everybody here for coming and supporting us. Where should I start? Let's see, 1965. Well, that's when I was born. I was assigned male at birth, and I'll go ahead and say that my dead name was Thomas Edwin Mohr, and I am 56. I'll be 57 this year. Thank you for the compliments you're going to give me because I don't look my age. But I came out when I was 55, and December 2020. And it took me a long time to do that just because of obstacles in my life. And it was a tough decision, but I made it, and I'm glad I did. And any chance I get, I try to advocate for the transgender community because it helps me learn more about who I am and what to expect from others. And so this opportunity presented itself. I thought this was a wonderful time to be able to come forward and just talk about things. Bear in mind, I'm new at this. I'm still a rookie, I guess, but I don't come here with a lot of statistics, numbers and such, the percentage of this number of people, the population, whatever. This is more of a personal thing, and I think it's the best way for all of you to get information. It's too easy to go onto Google and search for something, because whatever you search for, that's what you're going to find. And if you're looking for negative things, you're going to get negative. You go for the positive, you'll get positive. But when you speak to somebody in person, you get a better feel for things, and you get to understand where they're coming from and the feelings behind it, instead of reading some article in a online website or something. And so it's good to be here, and hopefully you guys have some really good questions. And my girlfriend, Julie, she's been with me for over a year now.
Hey, Julie, raise your hand. Oh, look, there she is.
We've been together for over 10 years. And when I came out, there's many different ways you can come out to your family and friends and coworkers. I probably did what was the most cowardly way to come out. It was via text message. Yes, I'm ashamed to say that. But
Like 11:30 at night.
oh my gosh, was it that late?
Yeah.
But I sent a
I
message.
don't know if we want to hear your story. Julie is.
It's just tell you the good parts. But I sent a text message to my 3 sons, and I sent a separate one to Julie. And I was scared. I didn't know what to expect. Of course, expecting the worst was total rejection, and then I would lose my family, and I would lose my girlfriend, and so it was tough. It was one of those things, but once you hit the send button, it's done. It's not like emails. When you hit delete, they ask you, "Are you sure you want to delete this?" They don't have the option when you're about to send something. You don't get to take it back. So I sent it off, and the results were great. all three of my sons are behind me. And, well, obviously Julie is. She's still here with me. She's my biggest supporter. And then came my other family, my mom, my sister. My father died many, many years ago. He wouldn't have accepted me. That was part of my block during childhood as far as developing into who I really am. So I called my sister, and we were talking, and I didn't quite know how to come out to her. So I was like, do you know what transgender is? And she's like, yeah, of course. And then it just went from there. And my mom and my sister weren't surprised at all. It was almost like they kind of knew there was something different about Tommie. I grew up being called Tommie, and I liked the name, and I always thought it kind of had a feminine sound to it, so all I did was I changed the spelling. And so family acceptance, my girlfriend's acceptance, Julie's family also accepted me, her children and her parents, and that was really important to me also. And so I had all of that backing, and then there was work. Coming to work, prior to me coming out, I was already wearing nail polish, and the guys knew I was a little off, I guess, anyway, to begin with. They just didn't know how to take me. I'm like, well, is our boss gay? Is he bisexual? What's going on? And I never told anybody. And then my first step was to contact my human resources department. I wanted to find out I work for the city of Newport News, by the way. I asked them, what is the policy on this? And I was the first one they ever had to deal with that came out openly as transgender. And so all they could really tell me was that there is the non-discrimination policy that the city has, and they just recently added gender identity as part of their non-discrimination. So they told me, we've got your back. You do what you got to do, whatever you feel safe and comfortable doing. And so that's how I did it with work. And then I sent an email to the public works director, whose building that I work in, and then my director of engineering and the whole chain. And I let them know my intentions. And one of those, of course, was you may get some complaints because somebody new is using the ladies' room at work. And I was really nervous about that at first because all of these people I've known for almost 15 years, and all of a sudden they're going to see me going into the women's restroom. And so I didn't know what kind of reaction to get. And so January 3rd was our first day back into work in the new year, and I said, I'm going to start using the women's bathroom. And I was disappointed. I didn't get the negative reaction I was looking for.
It's just a matter of time.
Yeah, not to say that that's not going to happen. I've got some stares, but nothing really bad, and nobody's come after me or anything like that. And yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, no.
Do you feel like it was a little invasive having to tell everybody that you worked with, like corporate and HR, or do you think that, looking back, it was necessary that you should have had to have done that?
I think the reason why I did that was it started off, I wanted to know if what that policy was, because there are still some states, believe it or not, you can get fired from your job for being gay, lesbian, transgender, and it's so archaic that can happen. And so I was, when I made the phone call, I was coming at them as, I'm asking for a friend. But I wanted to know what that policy was, because I wanted to feel safe coming out and know that I was covered. And so, and then the people that I worked with, I got a close working relationship, and I just thought that the guys should know. And that way they get it from the horse's mouth and not from rumors through the grapevine or anything like that. And so I thought it would be best to let them know that way. And everybody that works for me, they haven't changed their attitude or the way they treat me in any way, shape, or form. They still have that same respect. What goes on behind closed doors when I'm not there, I don't know.
Well, yeah, they
So,
work for you.
that's
great. So, they have to kiss your ass. Scream. That's when they come out.
And so they sometimes will come up with questions, and and I'm glad they do. I told them that I'm very receptive to that because I want to be able to have them be comfortable around me, and they are. They don't have any issues with me or anything. And I've said this before, and it would have been easier for me if I was just straight up gay, because people understand that. They're like, this man likes this man, this woman likes this woman. They understand that. And bisexual, it's like, oh, this person likes both, okay. And you throw transgender in there, like, okay, what is that?
Well, and then you throw in being transgender. So you're now a woman dating a woman. And they're like, okay, does that make you gay? Does that make you bi? Does that make you straight? Does that
Oh my
make...
gosh.
And they have all these questions.
That was
Not-
my mom's question. After she says, does that make you a lesbian now?
Yeah, there's the common misconception of gender, both gender identity and sexual orientation being one, being related, don't necessarily have anything to do with one or the other. You can be perfectly straight, transitioning, and essentially be a lesbian, although, you know, to you, there isn't that thought. So what Tommie's saying, it would be a lot easier if you said, hey, I'm gay, or hey, I'm this, or hey, I'm that, instead of throwing that almost like a curveball out there
It is.
and seeing how they react.
Has your job helped you at all, like with those discussions with employees? I mean, have they been receptive to that, or do they ask advice from you, or
No,
being the first?
Only thing they did, once I did that, they wanted to know what my full intentions were. So it was a private meeting with my department director, with human resources, and they wanted to let me know that we're good with this. Just, we want you to be comfortable, we want you to be safe, and if I need anything, to let them know. But they haven't come right out and said, okay, this is how we're going to do things, we're going to work around you, this and that. They're putting it off on me to let me just do what I want to do. And so I like it better that way. I don't want anyone directing me to do this or that. And I also think there's the idea of the unknown, because as far as I know, I'm the first openly transgender person the city has experienced. And I do know that there was one transgender person when, I want to make sure I do the pronouns properly, I don't want to misgender him, but when she worked for the city, she came across just as a lesbian. That's how everybody knew her. She wasn't very open about it because she was worried about what would happen to her, but that's how she came across to us. So she even let us know, showed pictures of her girlfriends and everything. When she quit, he joined the fire department in, I think Richmond or something, and I see him online once in a while and everything, and so he wasn't openly transgender working for the city. And then I do know there are some gay couples that work for the city, and with new legislation that's happening and everything, Supreme Court, and I really worry for them about what's going to happen. And it's worth staying up at night worrying, because we just don't know what's going to happen.
Thank you, Chad. So your subtle message.
That was like, but yeah, work's been great so far. I haven't had any issues at all.
It seems like they're actually learning from you too.
Yeah, I see a counselor every 2 weeks, and she loves the fact that I'm open about things and I'm willing to teach people. And even in my limited capacity, as far as how much experience I have, I can just give them the personal experience. Like I said, I'm not into the whole statistics, 25% of this and that, and it's like, that doesn't matter to me. I'm not into that kind of thing. I'm just concerned about me right now and my transition and those around me. And so that's what I want to concentrate on. And then later on I could expand. This is part of the expansion, actually.
Right.
It was, how long ago did we plan this? It was,
This one, this is actually the second annual transgender panel. The first one was Becoming Your True Self, and it featured Dana Ward, a friend of mine, myself, and believe it or not, my ex-wife's new husband, who is transgender. So it was an interesting panel. Tommie approached me, 4 months ago, 3 months ago,
Something like that, yeah, it was a little.
and asked if we were having the panel again this year. And it was funny, that exact same day, I had sent a message to Joe in the morning, saying, hey, I hadn't heard, are we having the panel this year? And then Tom was like, hey, can I email Joe too? Sure. What are you gonna say? First thing she says is, are we having a panel? I was like, that's what I said to Joe. She goes, let's see if he replies. Not even what, an hour later, 2 hours later.
Yeah, it was quick.
It was almost immediate turnaround. Joe was like, yeah, if you ever want it, you can have it. Okay. So, and I was like, well, you know what? Tommie needs to be on the panel this year. She needs to tell her story. Get more people curious in regards to what you were saying. Finding out those questions, getting the answers, and not relying on the internet or some sort of internet-related search, and getting, I don't want to say a one person's opinion, because you're getting someone's opinion, obviously, when you're asking either of us, but you're getting someone's opinion online and you have no way of interacting with that person. So you can't find out if that experience was bad for a specific reason, or if it was just bad in general, or good in general. I guess I shouldn't immediately jump to the negativity. In defense, I am Jewish, so we love that negativity. But I'm also Italian, so it's great. Whatever I can't get hijacked, we just discount it. So, but Tommie has definitely come a long way.
Yes, I sure can.
You were presented to me through one of your coworkers, who is also affiliated with Scares.
We don't mention his name.
That person who shall remain nameless, we'll call him Adam.
Good, simple.
Yeah, it could be made up, could be real, who knows? It could be the dog right there, who knows?
He can have relatives in this room right now.
Yeah, well, I doubt it. I mean, they'd be dead. So, but Adam mentioned to Tommie, hey, I have this friend. Do you have a problem with me introducing? Of course, I'm guessing that you told him no, you don't mind.
Right.
And he asked me the same thing. He's like, I have a friend, Tommie, who's transitioning. Can I introduce? Okay. So Tommie reached out to me. We started talking. I gave her all the information I could. But again, it was my experience transitioning. So I don't know if it's similar, if you've had different experiences, but it was more of that getting the information that you couldn't necessarily get online. You were getting a human being's one-on-one opinion. As for me, I've been transitioning for 5 years. So, I have no problem, like Tommie, advocating, sharing that experience, because again, you don't know if you don't ask, and you're not gonna ask someone that you don't necessarily know. For a multitude of reasons. One of those being fear. Can I ask this? Oh, are they gonna get offended? Oh shit. What's gonna be their reaction? Who cares? You're in a closed room right now? By all means, ask away. So, one of the things that Tommie had asked is, are there any questions that are off limits? Are there taboo questions? And my answer is the same as Joe's. There's a way to tell. If someone comes up to you and goes, hey, nice cock in there, you can tell it's a little offensive. But if someone goes, hey, what are your intentions? How do you see yourself proceeding? There's a difference in the way someone presents and asks. So I said, you know what? If you don't want to answer something, don't. Just say, hey, you know what? I really don't want to get into it. Otherwise, no one in here, I don't want to say no one. Chad looks like he might be malicious when he was in here a few minutes ago. John is a scary looking son of a bitch.
I'm totally a malicious person.
Yeah, he might be. But generally, I don't see any malicious intent from anyone. But again, like you said, Tommie, advocacy is the best way to do it.
Yeah. So that's what I was asking, is this gonna be a rated R thing, PG-13, what is it? I don't mind answering anything. I think keeping information from people is the worst thing you can do. You gotta have good communication. And that's part of that is just ask and you shall receive. I was going through my head from the time I was told this was happening, what kind of questions are going to be asked, if any at all? Because everyone in here looks like they're just ready to burst forth.
Matter of fact, I remember you asking me that, what kind of questions do you think?
Yeah, and so I was like, you know what, I'll just answer anything. It doesn't matter to me. I'm not embarrassed. I'm not easily embarrassed about stuff. It's just how I am. And so with this, I wasn't certain. I was like, oh my goodness, what if they ask me this or that? It's like, what the heck, who cares? It's, if they're genuinely curious and want to learn, then I think I'm obligated to answer those things. And I don't like telling people, no, mind your business, that's not yours to know. But in the transgender community, there's probably a laundry list of questions that you're not supposed to ask a transgender person. You don't ask them what's in their pants, what's their dead name. There's certain things you just don't ask, but it's like, I think I'm kind of over that. It's
well, and again,
I don't know
the maliciousness.
Right. I don't know when to be offended. If you want to ask something, just do it. And because that's how I am. If I want to know something, it's easy to, hey, Jocelyn, what's going on with this person?
Right.
You don't really learn anything because all I'm getting is Jocelyn's opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But now if I ask this person here, this person directly, then they could either tell me, mind your own business, I'm uncomfortable, or they could just let me have it. And so if you want, just let us have it.
Well, and that was one of the great things about having Dana on this panel last year.
Rated R.
Dana has no filter. We love Dana to death. Dana does not have a filter. And everyone to a certain degree has a filter. You do know what you should and shouldn't say. Dana doesn't give a shit. Dana will say it. If you don't like it, there's one door, there's two doors, and she can make a third door over there for you. She really doesn't care. But her experience being transgender is different than my experience being transgender. My experience is different than Tommie's experience being transgender. And none of us, because we're all, going the other way, could match Angel's experience. Because obviously Angel is on testosterone. She's going from female to male. We couldn't answer what his experiences were. So it was good to have that opposite information to get out there. Unfortunately, we don't have that this year. However, I will tell you one thing right now. If either of us don't know the answer, we will find it for you. So if you have a testosterone question, we can't answer it, shoot me an email. I will get that answer for you. And I'm sure Tommie will be more than happy to do the same thing.
Or not.
But she will.
Yeah. Yeah, if, gosh, after this is over, if you want email addresses or whatever, please feel free. It's 2022. Even though I'm 56 years old, I have Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, anything else that's out there. And I used, you guys heard of TikTok before?
Oh, yeah. Hilarious.
What is that?
I started doing that just out of boredom because I used to watch video after video, like this, follow this person. And so one day, I'm at work when I decide to make my first TikTok video. And so my first few are just me goofing around, being stupid. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm going to start documenting my journey through TikTok. And if people want to watch it, they can. If not, they can just scroll on past. I've had good comments. I've had rude comments. I realize there's going to be haters out there. It's just going to happen. For every
Are you saying that haters are gonna hate?
I've never heard that before. But I meet their negative comments with humor and sarcasm, and it shuts people down right away when they see, I can't push this person's buttons. And so, so I use TikTok to kind of document that, and then I post pictures on Instagram, and by accident, I didn't know that certain things you can do to Instagram, they transfer right over to Facebook. And so Instagram, I have like 2 followers. Facebook, I have a lot more. And so I posted a picture of me on Instagram and went to Facebook. And when I realized what had happened, I was like, oh boy. But by the time I realized that, I had a laundry list of likes and wonderful comments. And I was like, wow, it blew me away. Out of everybody that I know, I think there's only one person that has kind of turned their back on me. It's a friend of mine. He was my squad leader when I was in Germany. And he's got his Facebook page. There's lots of friends and everything. And every time I would comment or post something, he would always comment back. Hey, that was a good one, or this or that, or take a jab at me. But ever since I came out, that has stopped completely. And he hasn't unfriended me, but he just doesn't respond to any of my comments anymore. So I'm just so heartbroken over that. One person in 1,000, I think that's pretty good. So yeah, the social media, like I said, I have all of those on my cell phone. And if anybody's interested, you can look me up and see my pictures, videos, whatever, and you can leave your comments too.
Especially the weird ones.
Do you ever think about just messaging that guy and asking him? I mean, I know a lot of times, like I say, the old version of you is dead. Maybe he just doesn't know how to interact with you and joke with you now that you've transitioned over and he's waiting for you to.
Sadly, you know, John, I never thought of doing that. I just.
It'd be better to know in the end, you know.
Yeah.
You reach out, he just ghosts you. And, well,
Yeah, because just the way he is, I'm going to stereotype big time here.
You said squad, right? Like military type?
Right.
Squad. Okay. Well, I mean, it might be a little more difficult.
One of the selling points I gave Joe Ripple for me being here was that I'm transgender, retired
you are?
military veteran. I spent 20 years in the military, 3 years Navy, and 17 Army, and I retired in 2005.
We're not going to count that on.
And so, God, I'm going off track. There's so many different branches I could go off on here, but I think I should do that, John. I think that's a good idea. It never really crossed my mind.
That's kind of a different kind of quote-unquote brotherhood when you're in that armed service with a guy like
Right.
that. Maybe he just doesn't know what's my limit, what's my boundary to
He's
speak to you.
West Virginian redneck to the bone.
Oh,
He grew
okay.
up working in a coal mine.
Is there any part of Tommie that I used to know still there? Can I still joke and jab at you and cut up with you? Maybe it's difficult for him and he just doesn't know what to say.
I think I
Which
could
would be
do
interesting
that.
to know.
I guess a good indicator, a green flag, is that he hasn't unfriended me.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like maybe he's just waiting for the olive branch. Like, hey, we're still bros, on that kind of level. You
All right, well.
you throw down your life for him before, you still probably would, maybe he just needs to know.
I
I think it'd be
definitely
healthy
agree
for
with
it.
John, actually.
Huh?
I agree.
And
Yeah,
John's
I-
nodding
that's-
her head, it's like,
Right.
I have to do this now.
And obviously it's hurting you in your heart.
Take
that-
up about it later.
Yes.
It's obviously hurting you in your heart that this is a very important person to you, so I'd rather know than not know. I think that at least you'd have closure that way. And, just reach out and
Thank
say,
you,
hey.
John, I never gave it that much
Do you need
thought.
them?
They want witnesses, I gotta do it
Like
right.
next year, you better come back and let us know what happened, man. You know?
Here's another question over there, so John doesn't monopolize all the
Oh,
time.
right.
I'm just saying.
I just wanted to ask you, and I feel bad if I use the wrong terminology, please. Honestly, I don't know what terminology is now the acceptable words to use versus words that were, maybe 5 years ago or, 10 years ago. That, that's what it was legitimately called, and it wasn't said in a hateful way, it's just that's what it's called back then. And then I was wondering if you could help educate me on the controversy that we're seeing about sports and Olympics, because my hairdresser was talking about it negatively last weekend, and I said, well, I really don't know enough about it to feel like I can have an opinion on it. So if you could help
Ironically,
educate me on what the
That was
hullabaloo is
actually
with that.
a recent topic on a radio show a friend of mine has. Project Arrowhead, if anyone ever listens, when the International Olympic Campaign, the IOC, was talking in reference to a transgender swimmer. There was debate on whether transgender male to female athletes versus transgender female to male athletes have a greater advantage or a disadvantage when it comes to female to male athletes because of the bone structure, the musculature, the size difference, the strength. So there is a whole host of debate issues that are coming with what you're asking. And it really all depends on the person. I've seen, and I know Tommie has seen, matter of fact, the young lady you sent me the picture of the other day, who is, I guess male, female.
Yes.
But bone structure, size seems smaller, more compact, started their transition earlier, before they had the chance to, I don't want to say this, negatively develop male, the larger frame, the stronger build, the increased muscle mass. So it really all depends on the point when a person transitions. And that's what a lot of the debate is getting into. And that's unfortunately, something that can't be decided on a blanket scale. It really is a per person decision. I mean, you can't look at someone John's size. So let's say John decided to be a woman tomorrow. John's still gonna be John's size.
I believe that with some of the amateur associations, they look at it, the amount of testosterone, free testosterone in the body.
They used to measure that.
Yeah, and I know that, just to give an example, I believe in the last Summer Olympics, the most recent ones, there was a transgendered male to female in, I believe it was the heavyweight division of weightlifting. And the coach, they're going to wipe everybody out. No, this person didn't even come in the top 10. So again, it's very much individual. Not so much amateur sports, but I follow somebody on, and I can't remember the dead name because you might know, but they were a male professional wrestler, 280 pounds of muscle. Her name now is, I believe she goes by Gabby Tough, something like that. And you look at her now, and she is just has a wonderful sense of humor. She's bigger and taller, but No, and she talks about how she did, she had, her, as a male, her body fat percentage was like 6%, just, and now she said, well, she just stopped working out and just ate whatever she wanted and got up to like 24%, and she looks good, and on the same note, there's a male to female professional wrestler, goes by the name Nyla Rose, I believe. And nobody seems to have any problem with her, so.
And it really comes down to the profession. I've noticed, at certain collegiate levels, a person transitioning is going to receive more bias becoming male to female than female to male. And I'm sure you've seen the debate with any sort of Olympics or collegiate Title IX decisions have all been based upon male to female athletes. The male stronger, the man has an advantage, well, first off, they're not a man. We're going to agree on that. Second, there's not a single mention of female to male athletes. It's been a scientifically proven fact that testosterone can increase muscle mass with female to male transitioning. Conversely, it's also been proven and shown in different studies that in male to female, the increased testosterone and lack of increased estrogen, lack of testosterone can actually decrease the muscle mass in a person. I know offhand, I've experienced this.
Same here. Next time you get into that conversation, ask that person how many world-class champions, gold medalists are transgender. And like I said, I'm not into statistics, but the numbers are going to be in single digits, if not zero. There just aren't that many, and they're making a big deal out of it. What Jocelyn was talking about, I've experienced myself. I've been on estrogen for about 1.5 years now. Because of a certain procedure I had done, my body does not produce testosterone. Over time, I've lost muscle mass. I used to be able to just carry 2 cases of bottled water out of the car into the house, no problem. I have problems carrying 1 case now. And so for them to say that I would have an advantage in an athletic competition, I've diminished my body for what it used to be able to do. And so I would not be at the top of the game competing as a female. I just wouldn't. And so to me, it's almost like a non-issue. It's like they're making a big deal out of it. The Olympic Committee at one point in time said that they want to test chromosomes. So, how many of these women are actually women or how many men are actually men. And the findings were pretty dramatic. Everyone's familiar with the XX, XY chromosome. They discovered, yes, they discovered intersex people. There were athletes that didn't know that, oh, I have these gender traits in my DNA. And so the Olympic Committee said, we cannot use this because it would disqualify many athletes. And then they figure out they really don't have an advantage. That's why transgender athletes are allowed to compete. It's just the old-fashioned notion of that's a man, doesn't belong playing women's sports.
Well, and that's the same ideology that we've seen with any of the Title IX decisions, but also with the bathroom debate. We don't want a man in the woman's room. We don't want a woman in the man's room. How many people have heard that? Not a damn one of you. We don't want a woman in the man's room. Who the
Women
hell
don't want to be
says
in the
it?
men's rooms now.
Oh, no, I have the potty bag, so why the women's room is
But
allowed.
no one has ever said that. But you've heard people, and I'm sure, say, I don't want a man in the woman's room. Well, shoot, I don't want a man in the woman's room either. John, don't go in a woman's room.
I'll try to stay out.
All right, see, there we go.
Sometimes
Discussion
I need to make
over.
a sissy, but
How many times have you gone in the bathroom and said, hey, I'm gonna check out what's in the next stall? Or have you gone and gone, oh my God, I have got to pee?
That's all it is.
Yeah, it's usually the pee.
Yeah.
I mean,
And the washing of the hands afterwards.
preferably.
And you get to see everybody's shoes.
I'm interested in the counseling. Like, how long do you have to go to counseling before they're like, okay, you can get your injections or you can do whatever?
Well, earlier I stated I came out in December of 2020. I sought out through, I have 3 healthcare systems. I'm bragging now. One of them,
First world problems.
one of them is TRICARE Prime, it's through the military. TRICARE doesn't touch transgender soldiers or retirees. They have nothing available. I was lucky that one of the nurses on Fort Eustis said, try the VA hospital in Hampton. They have a program there. And so I got in touch with them. And so that's where it started. I had to be seen by a doctor there. She was in charge of the LGBTQ program at the VA. There was a seminar that I attended. And this was all online because of COVID. So I never got to meet her in person. It was always video. And there was group sessions. But from there, I had to talk to a psychiatrist at the VA. And there was also another third-party doctor they wanted just to get another unbiased opinion. They diagnosed me with severe depression and gender dysphoria. And it was then that they decided, okay, we can go ahead and get her to see an endocrinologist to start hormone replacement therapy, or HRT. And I did that, and I started estrogen. So that was from December to April. The old notion of you have to live your life as the opposite sex for at least a year, that's no longer valid. I think they used to do that to discourage people from coming out and transitioning. But now they understand that it's not a fetish, it's a true mental thing. And I hate when people fetishize transgender people. It's a real thing. I didn't come out purposely just so I could put myself in a population of people that have a very high murder rate. There's a lot of violence
Very
against
high
trans.
suicide rate.
Yes, I didn't want to say, oh, that looks very appealing. I'm going to put myself in that group right there. It just,
Well, and one of those high suicide rates directly, relates to this panel. 10, 15 years ago, something like this would be unheard of. If you wanted an opinion, if you wanted to learn about it, you had to find what you could either online or through a third party. You didn't see things like that as open as they are now. And a lot of people felt hopeless. They saw no way to start that transition. And there was only one option. You can either be, locked in that person that you aren't truly, or suicide. And unfortunately, without those barriers being taken down to talking to someone, to seeking that help, suicide was unfortunately chosen by way too many people. I don't know if you've had people that couldn't come out. Again, you're 57 now. You've had a few years of people who, couldn't or felt that they couldn't come out. They wouldn't be accepted. Like you were telling your story, your squad leader who didn't accept you, who you haven't heard from. Maybe reaching out, like John suggested, is a great idea. Maybe that is that opening that person's looking for. Same thing when I came out to my kids. I was looking for that acceptance from them, and if I hadn't gotten it, I think we we know where that would have gone. I've been very, very forthcoming and open about that.
I think one of the best things that help prevent suicide is having a good support system. If you have nowhere to go, no one to turn to, suicide seems like that's the only alternative left because no one's there to help you. And so, since I've come out, like I told you, I was very fortunate. I have an excellent support system. It was all those years leading up to coming out that I had to keep everything suppressed. Growing up, it was my father. And then wanting to be the good son and being a man, I figured, hey, the military, that's the way to go. And so I joined this organization that is very anti-trans, anti-gay, anti-lesbian. When I enlisted, they asked you right up front, are you a homosexual?
Remember, we just have to sign that.
Yes. And if you put yes, you just didn't get in. It was that simple.
Well, you remember at the MEP Center signing the I will not engage in any homosexual activity. They didn't discriminate upon your gender.
No.
But you had to sign saying you will not engage in any homosexual activity whatsoever whilst in the military.
And the military is the only job you'll get where you have to show your butthole as part of your interview to get in. So.
And you have to let someone squeeze your testicles if you have them.
Squeeze them if you got them.
Yeah. A little awkward.
Well, if you love what you do, you're not really working a day in your life.
In the back.
So I know that we've been talking a lot about AFAB to masculine and AMAB to feminine because that is very predominant in the view. I'm wondering about, because since gender is a spectrum and there's a whole swath of non-binary or non-gender or agender, how that interacts with the trans community.
I'm going to go ahead and say, at least from my point of view, everything within the gender spectrum is obviously welcome. I mean, there are numerous genders. It's not 40, 50 years ago. Sorry, Grandpa.
I do have grandkids.
Right. So do I. I can't say that anymore. You've seen the picture of Abby, haven't you? Abby's my granddaughter. Brand new, little itty bitty.
Yeah.
I have time to fuck her up. But anyway, it's definitely welcome as far as what I have seen. Because there are a whole lot of people on the spectrum, whether they be non-conforming, non-gender conforming, non-binary. There are a number of people who are transgender who do not wish to have any corrective surgeries, both male to female and female to male. Because again, the thought process, the brain, the mammalian brain or reptilian brain, whatever school of thought you apply to that, is generally going to think and be in the gender that they are. So a female brain may be in a male body. I know I can speak for me personally. I've always known I was a woman. I came out at 3. I knew at 3 I was a woman. Unfortunately, I look like I do. Sorry. I wish I would get better. I won't. But I know my daughter Kimberly, her boyfriend, was genetically a female, but her brain was male. So she is a male. a lot of non-binaries I've come across are neither male nor female. They are themselves, but they still fall under that transgender rainbow, if you will. I don't know what you've encountered. I will turn this over to you.
I'm not sure where to start. I think spectrum is a wonderful word to use because it's kind of an all-encompassing thing. It spreads out so far. And one of the things I've seen a lot of, is anyone familiar with the term cisgender? CIS?
I am, but I'm not, I don't know what all the terms mean.
A cisgender person is someone that was born, well, I'll just use a female as an example, and identifies as a female. Just a straight person, basically. And then, you have trans. And there are people that I've come across on the internet that think cis is just a made-up word. And they don't really understand. So I dug around a little bit. Trans and cis are from Latin. And basically cis means this side of, and trans is the other side of. And so the other side of, this side of is small. And the other side is where you have that big, wide spectrum. And that's why you have people that say, I'm non-binary, does that make me transgender? It kind of does. It's how you really feel about yourself. It's what your brain is telling you. The problem we have, I think, is, I hate saying the word normal, but societal norms dictate that if you have this body, you are a man. If you have this body, you are a woman. They don't take into consideration what's going on up here in the head. And that's everything. And so that's why you have people say, well, people that are transgender they're mentally disturbed. And it's like, well,
We are, but that's.
I say because we're not normal. But yeah, it is. It's a very wide spectrum, and I'm learning about all the others. I think everyone's familiar with the 4 letters LGBT, and then the Q got added here at A, a plus.
Let's just go with the rainbow umbrella.
And it just,
I like the rainbow mom.
the list goes on, and it's because it's all of these different ways people can identify themselves as. And I really can't talk too much about those others because that's not me. This is me over here, but I may read up on it just so I'm knowledgeable, just so I know, what's going on out there, because there are so much.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
No, I was just curious if either one of you had, experienced during your transition, a time period of anger. And the reason I ask it is because I had a very close friend who is trans, and during the transition has basically taken our whole tight-knit group of friends and made us seem like complete animals, like we are totally against them and that we're just basically awful human beings. And I've got other trans friends who totally accept who they are for what they are, and we're totally fine with that. We support that, and it's not anything, we're on board with them. But this one particular individual has just turned to complete hatred towards a whole group of close-knit friends for no particular reason other than what I can assume is just insecurities, and I'm not sure, so just wanted to ask that question.
Unfortunately, that you're going to get obviously 2 opinions here that are, can be very powerful. Oh, we've never seen, that person's just an asshole. It really all depends on what is in a person's heart. HRT will change certain things with a person. What is in their head and what is truly in their heart probably won't ever be changed. But some people also have a negative reaction, chemically and physically, with estrogen. And specifically with, not estrogen, progesterone, thank you. generally, most people will take estrogen and be absolutely fine. They'll have their periods of depression, but I think we all tend to have that. Just tends to be a little more amplified as you are going through a second puberty. With progesterone added to it, and a lot of doctors will add the progesterone, a lot of people have reported having more of a negative reaction, having more anger, more, of an acidic type of personality. So that may be what kind of precipitated that person going to that place. That may be something that, you might want to even mention to them, hey, maybe you should talk to your medical team, this is what we see. That's on them if they want to present that to their team and see if maybe changing medicines or switching something around might alleviate some of that. If they don't want to talk to someone, obviously they're an asshole.
You just gave me my answer.
Okay, great, I don't say anything.
Oh, gee, that was so easy.
Well, my personal experience of being on estrogen, don't you laugh. I've become a crybaby. I could watch a commercial and something will just trigger me and I'll start crying. There's certain things I'll start talking about and I'll just get choked up a little and I have to stop talking for a bit, back up a little bit, catch my breath, and then proceed. And as far as any anger, I haven't felt any anger or anything like that. And I think it's because of the acceptance I've had.
Yeah.
I don't hold grudges. I don't hate my father. I just know he wouldn't accept me. I disliked the way I was treated when I was younger. And he was old school, old fashioned. And in his words, I'm raising sons, not sissies. But there was no hatred or anything like that. I didn't feel that. Recently I asked my endocrinologist about progesterone because usually I'm a very patient person, but when it comes to breast growth, I'm very patient. It's like,
And
when is it going to
I'm actually going to
happen?
support that.
And so
You'll find that very much through the transgender community in male to female. Breasts and development of the breast tissue is the most common annoyance with anyone going through their transition, because identity, that's what makes a woman. Growing up, you saw your mother, you saw your aunts, you saw your sister, they were developing. The only way that you were visually seeing their development was through the mammary glands. So in a male to female mentality, that's the sign of development. Oh, that person's a woman, they have breasts. So I absolutely can understand your the immediacy of I need this to feel a certain way.
Because I'd seen stuff, because I do all my research online, because that's where you find the truth. But reading about some
Especially if
people's
you're going to Fox News.
some people's experience taking progesterone, it had increased breast growth. So I asked my doctor about that, and she says it may or may not, but she also said it increases your chances of cancer, of blood clots, and she recommended that I don't go that course. She never said I'm not going to prescribe it to you, but she just recommended against it, and I'm going to go with that recommendation. I'll bring up somebody that was here, Dana, because Dana would tell you this. She told me to, if I do it, be very careful, because she used to take it and noticed it had a definite change on her personality, and it wasn't for the better, and it scared her, and she stopped. And so,
And ironically, I used to take it as well.
oh boy,
I never had any reaction,
okay.
neither good nor bad, nor developmental. And that's, again, 3 different people,
Depends on the
3
person.
different stories. It really all depends on the person. But we did discuss, obviously, the the breast augmentation surgery. And one of the things that I did tell Tommie was, take a look at your 2 to 3 closest female relatives, mother, grandmother, aunt. Generally, the breast size that they have will be what you can possibly and are more likely to develop naturally. You're like, thank God. Again, I'm Jewish. No, I'm fucked. Thankfully, I've already had that done. But yeah, it's generally a good marker if you're looking for any sort of enhancements, just to look at your closest relatives. And the same could be said with female to male. Take a look at your 3 closest male relatives. And generally, that's kind of how your appearance is going to develop. Facial hair, or hairline, or musculature, depending on obviously how much development and time they've had within the transition. It's a good indicator of how you're going to be.
And I think it's, humans, we're visual creatures. That's how we're attracted to each other. That's how we perceive our world, is through our eyes. And I can't speak so much for the transgender males, of course, obviously. Well, Angel's not here. This is where I would have loved to have had his perspective. But it's by no means easy transitioning. It doesn't matter if you're male or female. There's so many obstacles. But from what I have seen, and I don't want to make this so simplified, but I think transgender males have an easier time than transgender females, because the transgender males can shave their head, get a male haircut. They can either have the breasts removed or bind and wear the so-called, male clothing, even though most stuff nowadays is unisex. But they dress like a typical male would. And a lot of them, they pass as a male visually. For transgender females, starting out, people see a dude in a dress.
And they don't shy away from saying that a lot of the times.
I've gotten a lot of dirty looks. I've got some menacing looks. It's something that we had to learn to just get used to. It's a horrible thing to have to get used to. No one should have to get used to something like that. But you can't dwell on it, or it's just going to eat you up. I still find myself affected once in a while. Where were we, Julie?
Target.
We're at Target, and I noticed a woman was staring at me, and she made a comment, but I think she made sure that I heard the comment, and it was just simply, "That's a man." And normally I'm like, whatever. It really bothered me though. I couldn't just brush that off for some reason. It just hit me a certain way that day, and it stuck with me for quite a while. And
I know you made me quit following her.
I think Julie was trying to track her down in the store to kick her ass. So,
Ironically, that you mentioned that, I was in Panera Bread using the restroom maybe 3 weeks ago. A woman comes in, finished my business, I'm washing my hands. She looks at me and goes, "Aren't you in the wrong restroom?" I go, "No, the woman's room is here, the bitch's room is outside." And I probably shouldn't have, I probably didn't, but she had no qualms. "Aren't you in the wrong restroom?" No, I'm washing my hands. I think that's pretty much any restroom, yeah. Sink, water, towel. No, yeah, I'm in the right one. But yeah, they have no problems just spouting that out.
people just feel the need to say things. I think, who was it, Thumper's mother in Bambi? Probably had the best line. If you don't have anything nice to
Do you
say,
feel like the internet has changed that a lot too? Because everybody seems to be 10 feet tall now when they can voice their asshole opinion
There are
online.
definitely the keyboard commandos.
Yeah.
Just like 30 years ago, you had the telephone tough guys.
Yeah.
I mean, every medium is going to raise someone to say what they want with a certain level of protection. Social media has been instrumental in doing that, both negatively, unfortunately, and positively. For instance, we're having this discussion right now because of the internet. The internet really started. But conversely to that, the internet also has that same discussion elsewhere, excuse me, where they can get together and talk about just the anti-discussion that we're having right now, saying we're against this, we're against this, we're against this, and here's who supports us. We're for this, here's who supports us. So it really can work in any fashion and capacity you want it to.
I've known you a few years now, and I just met
Yeah.
Tommie today. You're great, by the way. We had a fun sci-fi nerd.
Ironically, he forgets that he knew you last year too.
Well,
But
I didn't really chat with you as much as last time.
right.
But do you feel like it's getting better? Is the road getting easier job for either of you? I mean, as time goes on, I want to think there's positive people in the world, and it's going to get a lot better for you. But
I would love to say yes.
the optimistic person in me wants
I
the
would
best for
really
you.
love to say that. However, I think with recent decisions that did, and see, it's speaks like this, but the problem with recent decisions that have been publicized, such as Roe v. Wade, Oberfell versus, there's unfortunately that air of mystery that surrounds it. It can be better. I would love to say it's going to be better. We're being more accepted everywhere, but at the same time, there are those that seem to be shutting everything down. It's really hard to say. But again, like you said, John, I would love to keep that optimism up. Yes, it's going to be different, it's going to get better, it's going to change.
Just from my own personal experience, it's kind of 50-50. There are times when people, they see me, ma'am, miss, they address me as such, and that, by the way, that's a great feeling. It's very affirming. And then you do have some people that may misgender you because they're just not sure. And so they'll say Mr. or Sir or something. And then you have the ones that do it on purpose.
And there's definitely a way to tell the difference.
Yes.
I don't know if anyone takes Uber, but I drive occasionally for Uber every day. And one of the things that I've encountered is some people will say sir, just out of habit, sir, ma'am, whatever. You don't see your driver's face 90% of the time, you just see the back of their head. And the first time it's, not really a guy. Oh, sorry, no big deal. But you get those that say, oh, okay, sir. Oh, go fuck yourself. And I've said that repeatedly. There's definitely a difference. You can say something and be absolutely mistaken. I had someone the other day who just saw the tattoos and said, sir. When I said something, oh, I'm sorry, I made a judgment based on the tattoos. That's all I said. Okay, I can understand that,
And it's funny, before coming here, I had imagined a room just packed with people and hot and humid and dozens of hands asking questions. And I was, what kind of questions are they going to ask? And I'm going through this and coming up with answers. But this is part of one of the answers that someone in here should have asked. What's the hardest thing about being transgender? My voice. I deal a lot of my time in my office on the phone or emails, and pick up the phone, the person on the other end, in their head knows that, oh, I'm talking to a man. And I've gotten used to that, but now I'm almost getting to the point where, look, we've emailed each other back and forth enough times. I have my pronouns in parentheses after my name. I was told that is a proper thing to do, so I do that. And so I'll correct them, and for the most part, they're very responsive. Oh, my apology, I'm so sorry. And there are some that still continue with the sir, and I'm like, this person's not gonna bend. And so yeah, there's voice training you can take. All the hormones in the world are not gonna change my voice. I've been through puberty. I lived my life as a male for so long. My vocal cords, they're set in stone. There's surgeries that can be done. They're not always 100%. You have to work on your voice. And so that's one of the
actually
ways.
Something that is different for male to female than for female to male.
Definitely.
Testosterone with female to male does affect the voice. There are a number of female to male transgender people who have taken testosterone and noticed the deepening of their voice within the first 90 days. There are some that are obviously longer, but there is a distinctive change in the voice.
It's amazing. There's a lot of TikTok videos. A lot of people use TikTok as a platform to show their progress. And they'll have both transgender male and female make these videos where they say, okay, day 1 on estrogen, and then maybe day 27 or whatever. But the transgender males, it's amazing from that first video to video just 6 months out. There's a definite change in their voice, and it's amazing. And I was like, why can't that happen this way?
Right, exactly.
And so, that's one of the things that how we get misgendered so easily is because of our voices. And I know Julie's always said, you need to practice your voice. And I usually do when she's not around. I talk to my dog.
Well, I wish Dana was here, because Dana does not attempt to change her voice at all. And John's heard Dana talk, and Dana will tell you flat out, accept me for me or don't.
The most interesting thing about Dana to me is I knew her before she started transitioning, so I've watched her from the beginning, and it's night and day how far she's come. I mean, I remember Dana years ago when we were just 2 guys hanging out at Comic-Con, and I didn't even know.
Well, you talked to me about her, 5 years ago?
Yeah, I mean,
and then introduced me to her. Oh, the next year, hey, my friend Dana's here.
Yeah.
That's how I met Dana, was through John.
Yeah, and just, man, leaps and bounds. And every time I get on Facebook and see a new photo of her, she's getting closer and closer all the time.
She looks amazing, doesn't she?
And it is amazing. And it's just, I mean, even just friend aside, just medicine and technology is helping you guys along. It's just fascinating to me. And I just adore her. She came to my wedding. She was great.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about that.
Well, I try to get you to come.
Yeah, some of us financially couldn't afford it, okay?
You were there in spirit.
I was.
And you did message me that day, so.
See?
And I still love
And I
you for
even
it.
sent you a wedding gift.
That's it.
We have time for one last question. Anyone? Okay.
I don't have a question, but I wanted to bring up a point where John was asking, do you think it's getting better? But when you look at history, and there was a time in history when people who were different and didn't fall into that norm category were put into insane asylums because, or they were exorcised or whatever. Of course, now is much better. It's not where it should be, but it has over history, just like every other situation has,
It has its
most of
bits
the
and
time, a
valleys,
terrible history, and we've evolved. So this is just one more thing that we need to
I absolutely
evolve.
agree.
And I think that there's more emphasis put on that now to be more accepting and to understand that there are all different types of people that make up the human race. And so I think that people are becoming more open-minded. Now, you've got the old school people that until they die, they're gonna be that way. And I'm one, I come from the old school, but I'm able to accept change, and it's just something for me personally, I'm able to accept. I do know people that, don't, and these are mainly people that are, believe it or not, religious people, that are very judgmental, and I tell them, that's between them and God or whoever they,
Whatever their higher power
Yeah.
is.
that's between them. And if the being thinks that that's wrong, they'll deal with it. It's not for you to deal with. So I think that things are changing quite a bit. We see more on television, more open relationships on television and social media and everything. That I think is bringing it around.
If you look at advertising,
Yeah,
pay close
even
attention to commercials nowadays.
commercials and things are really trying to put that out there. And there are some people who say, I can't believe that they're condoning that or whatever, but with that commercial. But it is open, I feel like it's opening that discussion that needed to have been happening for many years. And now we've got the people who are willing to change the way that people look at
That perception.
people that are
I mean, it
different.
did have that negative perception.
Right. So I think that they're really putting it out there now. And
I
for
will-
those that aren't gonna ever change, they're not gonna change.
Well, I was about to say,
But for the others that are coming up and the generation, I think the generation also that's coming up,
Mhm.
even though we have a lot of negative things to say about them, they are also more open-minded to the fact that there are, to each his own.
right.
I say that a lot to a lot of people, to each his own. If that's what they want to do, let them do it, that's for them. So I think this generation coming up, although they are very self-centered,
Yes,
and we can say a lot of different things about them. Nothing personal.
I say personally,
I have a 22-year-old grandson that took forever to get his license because he could care less if he could drive. When I was 16, I was like, Mom, when you taking me?
Right.
Mom, when you taking me? Yeah. But there's a lot of, it's just a different entitled generation, I think. But they're also more accepting
there's
than
definitely a lot more
any other
progress
generation.
with this newer generation.
Yes, they are more accepting. And so I think that it's gonna come full around.
I want to end with two things. One is a Bible verse. And you're sitting there going, oh shit, she's quoting the Bible. If you open your Bible and look at 1 John chapter 4, verse 7 and 8, and anyone in this room is thinking, I don't remember it offhand. Basically, it breaks down to God is love. It says, dear friends, everyone who loves knows God. Everyone who is born of God knows love. That's basically what it's saying. So to say God is against whatever, gays or trans, first off, if God were against gays, why is he still making them? Come on. See, thank you. I didn't want to point to it. Really, come on. Same thing with trans. If God was really against us, why the hell does he keep making us? Because none of us would choose it. I know, I say I know. I can imagine that you didn't say growing up, you know what? want to be in a marginalized, hated, beat down, downtrodden, shit upon group. Oh, fuck yeah. Where do I sign up? Because I sure as hell did.
That's why I came out. I wanted to be a part of that group.
It seemed like such a cool way to be. The second thing I want to say is actually I want to end with a joke. How many transgender women does it take to change a light bulb? The answer is 1. Tell her she's beautiful and watch her light up a room.
Aww.
Take that with you. Remember to open a discussion with someone, whether they be gay, lesbian, trans, queer, whatever they identify with the spectrum. Bring that joke to them. See what the reaction is. Maybe that will be the opening that changes their way of thinking, changes your way of thinking. And like you said, opens up that new generation to, the possibilities, oh, maybe this is where we're gonna be. If you get a chance, check out my podcast, lesbiefriends.com. Yes, John saw what I did there.
I have to appreciate clever wordplay.
Yes.
But Lesbi Friends is the name of our podcast. We're on Apple Podcasts, we're on Spotify, Google Music, or Amazon Music, or you can find us on Buzzsprout. One of the things that I like to talk about is exactly what we talked about today, things that are affecting and can possibly affect the LGBTQ, Rainbow Umbrella Mafia, LGBTQIA, umbrella and spectrum, and share those stories, get those stories out there. Because the only way to discuss it and to take that stigma away from it is by opening that door, discussing it, making it not necessarily the norm, but more acceptable to another person. We do have 2 episodes that have been posted. In the second episode, my daughter Kimberly has told her story. If you also have a story, you would like to share it, by all means, send me an email. I'll be more than happy to do that. Other than that, thank you for coming.